two of them, and they are making different products. This is important. If there's no work in progress stock, it means at the end of each year, they make sure that they finish whatever product it is. It makes their calculations easier as well. And the year end is February. Now, focus please on desks. And we're going to do the factory overhead cost note. That abbreviation is just so that when you practice, you don't have to write the whole thing out all the time. I'm just giving you the memo here and then explaining a few things. The note is very easy. It's nice marks. I see it's 8 marks for this question here. Now they give you the water electricity, 248. But what is this? When you go do the question yourself, remember you can pause the video, like for example at this point, then do the note, then continue and maybe listen. If you made mistakes, then you can listen to my explanation. When they say that you have not yet paid the February water, it must first be added, as you know, because it's an accrued expense. Then only close your brackets, and then 80% is for the factory. It's typical questions or adjustments that they give you here. What do you think this is? You should, if you've practiced enough, know that the rent usually works with square meters. So in other words, the total size of the factory is 1,080 square meters, of which the building and the factory takes up most of it, which is 810. So it's a fraction times 3, 4, 5, 600. The insurance, watch out for this one. They don't give you the total. This is not the total. The question says that this is the sales department. It even says so on the paper. Can I just show you on my paper? It says here, I've already highlighted, insurance for the sales department. And then later on they say the sales department is 25%. Now, if the sales department is 25% and the factory is 75%, the following applies, and you'll be doing that all over the place while doing an accounting paper. You take the rand value, in this case 12,600. Now this goes for break-even point, sales, cost of sales, gross profit, anything. You have been given this. You want the factory, but you have the sales department. So the rule is times by what you want. The factory is 75%. And the sales department is 25%. And then you've converted the smaller amount to the bigger amount, which is 37,800. So this concept, when you work through papers, you'll see how often you need this. And of course, you need to show your calculations. Right, and then the last one was just given as sundry expenses. I wonder if you know why they say here at the bottom, I just wanted to leave that in, -1 for foreign items, and advertising is a foreign item. Do you already know before I say? Advertising falls under sales and distribution, or selling and distribution costs. And the two parts that you leave out in production cost is the admin building or the admin department and the sales or selling and distribution department. So the information will be given to you in a list of transactions or balances, but you ignore for now anything to do with admin or selling and distribution. It's only when we come to the break-even point and to the abridged income statement that those costs come into play. The next two questions, calculate total cost of production. Now, if I say total cost of production, you should know it consists of these three things: direct material cost, direct labor cost, and factory overhead cost. And because we've just calculated this in 1.1.1, they work with your answer. The direct material costs were given, and the direct labor, you just had to work it out like that. The next question, you must be able to not only work out break-even point, but if you make more, how much extra profit will you make? Now, you have to understand what contribution means. If you don't know yet, we are selling, I put my notes here on the side, so let me just get it again. We're selling, making and selling desks. If I'm selling a desk for 750 Rand, I need to, for every single desk, pay my variables, which is 580. So all that you have left every time you sell, make and sell a desk is 170, and that's contribution. But you've now already covered your fixed costs. So in other words, this 170 can now go towards extra profit. So an extra 1,500 desks will give you 255 extra profit. The chair factory, you are given the break-even point, which is, let's see, 18071, but you've got to prove it. Firstly, the formula. I've just done abbreviations. You can do your own abbreviation, but it's total fixed costs over selling price per unit minus variable per unit. And if you look at this, fixed cost, I wonder if you know what this amount is. It's always factory overhead costs. And now, like I said, admin comes into it. Admin is a fixed cost because, for example, no matter how many chairs you make and sell, your secretary, bookkeeper, admin people needs to be paid anyway. So that's a fixed cost. And then here, we sell these chairs at 390 each, and our variables are 305. But remember, variables consist of three things. The first one will be direct material cost, direct labor cost, and here selling and distribution comes into it. So if you know the formula well, it's really very easy to do this, and it's 4 marks. They always, after you do this, ask you to then comment. You have to, for 4 marks, do the following. You can do this on your own. I just want to show you. You have to comment. You have to give a figure. There it says, quote figures. Then you have to give a comment on the production and give a figure. So let's see if they did this. They give a figure for production. They give the figure for break-even point. But the comment then says they will make a loss. And these are the other options or ways you can put that. So please make sure that you understand when they say comment and quote figures. Now they've got, I think, a control issue again. You'll see how ethics and internal control comes into each and every question. And we're just going to quickly calculate for 4 marks to prove that the raw materials were not well controlled. Now, do you please notice, don't be frightened of all of this, although it is a bit frightening. Look at all the info. It says or you have, in other words, 5 options. Let's just look at the first one. You issued, meaning used, that amount of wood. But 16,000 were made, and as it says on top, it is 1.2 meters per square meters of wood. Doesn't say square meters there, but it should say square meters. Now, how can you need this amount of wood for 16,000 chairs, but you used 22,000? There's a wastage of 2,000 800 meters, and you've got your 4 marks. Read the rest, see which ones you like. I think this is sufficient. All the information is here. It's really not difficult. You have to do these questions quickly. I have not yet said in these videos, but let me say it now. This whole section for term 2 are supposed to be bonus marks, easy marks. And then, of course, that means that companies will be more difficult. So please make sure you get a lot of marks with these 4 topics. Very easy to understand what the cause could be in a factory of all this wastage, but you must give a solution as well. And you need to give 2. They've given you 4. Let's see which ones I would have chosen. First one, the cause of wastage could be unskilled workers. Okay, if you put me in a factory and say I must make a chair, you'll have a lot of wastage. Solution would be to train me. So there you go. Train the workers, but you can't just train. You have to, especially me, you'll have to keep on supervising me until I'm good with it. So in other words, that's one option for a cause for this problem. You could, let me pick the bottom one. You could say that it was poor quality wood. I know a little bit about woodwork, and I know some planks that you buy are skew or whatever the problem could be, poor quality. That means the solution is get another supplier. Or, remember the slash, don't say both, just say either or. Check the delivery, because it's possible that at the point of delivery, although I'm not so sure with the wood, at the point of delivery some damage happened. Okay, you can choose 2. And now they're on to direct labor cost, because remember the cost involved. Can I just quickly summarize that for you again? If you don't mind, I'm just getting some water. Maybe if you're sitting at home, you also need a quick break and pause the video. There we go. To produce something in a factory, total production cost, you've got, and we'll do a production cost statement now, but you need your raw material, which is direct material cost. You need your direct labor. The 2 together would be called direct cost or prime costs. And then you have your factory overhead costs. So, total production cost, like we did in an earlier question, is 3 things: direct material cost, direct labor cost, and factory overhead cost. To specifically answer a question about direct labor, you need to give them 2 reasons why direct labor could have increased by too much. Because 5% is to be expected. That's the increase they got. And remember, increase in wage and salary would usually be determined by the rate of inflation. Now let's look at this. Load shedding, thank goodness, doesn't happen that often anymore, but they still will accept that in your answers. I would have chosen this one first. Remember, it's just my preference, and I just want to show, I'm just trying to point out that you choose what works for you, that you can remember. If there's overtime, that could be the reason why our labor cost went up so much, because overtime is either 1.5 or sometimes double the normal rate. And then you must restrict overtime and supervise it. It mustn't be unnecessary. There must be a good reason for it. And then, let's see. I like this one. Your workers are inefficient, therefore slow, and or slow. And then, again, you can use this as the answer, as the solution. Train them, or monitor them, or pay per unit. See how much better they will work if they understand they're not just getting paid at the end of the day for sitting there. They must finish the unit. Here's our production cost statement. I think we're almost at the end of this video. I've just given you the summary here of the format. So let me just talk you through it again. Direct material cost, direct labor cost, added up equals direct cost or prime cost. Sometimes there isn't a block, then the total direct cost will just be in your third line. You'll just add downwards. This, however, doesn't cover everything else. So all the other costs inside the factory, that's your factory overhead cost. So by now, you've got the total on the block plus your factory overheads. And yes, we call this total cost of production, but that's not finished. If this is a factory, and remember in this question they actually said there's no work in progress at the start or the end, but if it's a factory that has got work in progress at the start, let's say it's chairs again, these would be half finished chairs that you already had at the start. So they will be finished by now, so this cost comes into this financial year. The subtotal, which is just these two amounts together, there's no words next to that. And I have told you before, all over the place, if there's closing stock, let me just go back one, work in progress at the end of the year. When will these chairs be finished? Only in the next financial year. That is why we always, that's what the brackets indicate, minus it. And there's your answer. And look at the difference in sentences. This line here says total cost of production. This line here says total cost of production of finished goods. Right, one more thing. The questions that you'll be doing will have, in all the topics, question marks, unknown amounts. And for example, here, they did not give me the work in progress at the end of the year. They could have left out factory overheads, direct labor, it doesn't matter. It's like a puzzle. You write the format out, you fill in all over the place the amounts that you have, and then you'll see there's one unknown amount. And then you just have to know how the puzzle fits together to find the missing amount. Now, in this example, we would have by now have filled in everything up to there. Sorry about the very rough line there. We would have this. If this is a question mark, then you can't get the answer. Then you must say, maybe they give me the answer in a different way. If I go to activity 2, they actually tell me, I'm just going to find it quickly. Yes, if you just look on my paper, please, although it's small, I just want to show you right at the end of activity 2.1, it says, the business produced so many blankets at that price each. So that's the total production cost of finished blankets. And here I've put it in on the slide. 12,950 blankets produced at 245 Rand each would give me a total of 317,250. Once you've got your total in, you work back up to get the missing amount. The arrows I'll do them again. The arrows just indicate that. Once you've got that calculation, you can fill in the answer at the bottom, work back up, and you have the missing amount. Lastly, the abridged income statement. Abridged just means shortened income statement. Do you see that we now bring admin cost and selling and distribution cost into it? So this is a shortened income statement, and you must pay special attention to this. Let's see activity 3, what's our product? Now we are doing study desks. So here you'll have your sales of study desks. Here you'll have your opening stock of finished desks plus whatever you produced minus what you've got left. And that's cost of sales. So the two are connected, the production cost statement amount with the abridged income statement. That brings us to the end of this slide. So let me just summarize for you. You will start with your basic concepts. Then you will, although the ledger accounts of grade 11 for manufacturing are not asked in Matric, you will understand that they are very logical and they bring you from raw material to work in progress to finished goods, so that you, and then to cost of sales, so that you can understand how it flows into one another. You have been tested on internal control, on ethics, on reason why you're not controlling direct labor, why there are wastage in raw material. It's supposed to be bonus marks, easy work, and if it's not yet easy, practice a lot until it becomes easy.